home, I'll start a minute early.
I could get, as soon as that thing hits 6, I'm start. I'm going by that little bad boy right there.
Now the man is here.
We go. You can't come back out of there yet. Good evening. I want to call this meeting of the Union County Land Use Board, October 21st, 2025 to order. If everyone would please stand as we pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Mr. Tilley, if you'd open us with a prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together here tonight. Pray, Lord, you'll continue to bless this county, bless this country, and bless all the endeavors we're in around the world to try to bring peace. Pray, Lord, you'll bless us tonight, help us to make good and just decisions. We ask this in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen. First item is additions or deletions. Are there any additions, staff, or deletions? Hearing none. Motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next item is approval of the minutes of the September 19th meeting. Board, you've had a chance to look at those, I hope. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is approval of the decision letter for the special use permit 2025 SUP01 Charlotte Aero Modelers. You all have that in your packet. Do I have a motion?
Let's make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, we'll move right along here. Next item is rezoning petition 2025 RZ 010 Haney. Mr. Bjorn, if you come and present this item to us, sir.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. All right, so this is case 2025-RZ-010. It's a straight rezoning. There are no conditions associated with it. It's called the Haney rezoning, in reference to the applicant's name. It's a request to rezone a approximately half-acre parcel on US 601 South from RA 40 to Highway Corridor. There are many commercial and institutional and industrial uses allowed in this zoning district, and I have the table of uses from the Unified Development Ordinance in case there's questions about what that might be allowed. And because it's a straight rezoning, there are no conditions associated with it. The area, again, yes?
Can you clarify that a second when you say no conditions?
That's right. It's just going from RA 40 to Highway Corridor. So the parcel, you can see it on the upper left. It's slightly up a hill. This is the driveway into the entrance of it. This is all DOT right-of-way along the road. It's actually a pretty wide right-of-way. And then north of the site, you see 601, south of the site, and then across the street, single-family residential. So this gives some context on the size of the parcel, the geometry of it. Nothing surrounding it has been developed. There's some single-family residential nearby. In terms of environmental features, much of it inside the site has been cleared. This, even though the property line goes out to roughly to 601, that is not the property line. The property line is actually the edge of the clearing. Everything in here is DOT owned to the front.
Sorry, what?
Everything that's in the forested area in the front is owned by the DOT. Our parcel map just doesn't reflect the right-of-way that was purchased by the DOT. And there's no environmental features on the site, such as floodplains or streams. In terms of zoning, give some big picture context. Monroe is to the north, some B4 exists to the south. There's all RA40 surrounding it. In terms of transportation, 601, 4-lane facility, carries a little more than 12,000 vehicles per day. There's no funded projects in the vicinity of the project, or I'm sorry, in the vicinity of the rezoning. Land use map, it's all purple because this is an employment corridor overlay, overlaid over rural residential. Because it's a commercial request, the school system was not consulted, and water and sewer are not available to the site. Community meeting was not required. We haven't received any inquiries since this was posted, and Monroe was not consulted for comments because this isn't immediately adjacent to their municipal limits or ETJ. So in terms of the positives and negatives, the negatives are that obviously with increased development along the corridor, you could get increased congestion, and the small size of the parcel limits uses on site. And that something we've noted on other rezonings up and down 601 is that we have it recommended as employment corridor, but there's relatively little commercial or industrial zoning along there. Generally, it's large lot residential or agriculture. So when you make the transition to implement the plan, you have the potential for conflicts with your neighbors because non-residential uses are getting implemented. So that's a concern. In terms of the positives, the zoning district is consistent with the plan. It does identify this as an employment corridor overlay. And because this is a relatively small amount of land, the traffic impact are likely to be low. But because of the small size of the site and because of the potential for the precedent for rezoning small parcels, in the future, you could have 601 South looking like 74 through much of Union County, where it's stripped out with lots of driveways and whatnot, which over time can eat up the capacity, make it unattractive, and just result in a not very attractive corridor. So having larger pieces of land that can be more appropriately designed with the driveways so that they're not right next to each other because everyone's entitled to access, as well as appropriate buffering, would be a better arrangement. So the proposed rezoning is not bad. The problem is the site is very small, and if this were to be approved with the limitations associated with it, and you move that into the future with more of them, the ensuing development pattern could be negative for 601. And so that is a large reason why we are recommending denial. So you are here tonight to consider this. The applicant is here. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, as well as him.
I have a couple. I go by there twice a day, and that driveway is pretty steep. Was there ever anything built on the hill up there? Was there ever a structure up there?
I'm not aware of anything. The applicant is here to answer questions as well. My understanding is that they tried to, the reason why it was on the market to be purchased, because it was recently purchased, is because they tried to put a house there and couldn't, because the soils wouldn't perk for septic.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, on the land use map page, you say a community meeting was not required since it wasn't a conditional rezoning request.
Correct.
Why should you not get community input regardless of what the zoning is?
That's what we follow the Unified Development Ordinance requirements. There's no requirement for a community meeting for a straight rezoning.
Well, I think that needs to be changed.
I have a, I have a question regarding the opposite side of the street. Is that residential, a house?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Lee, you had anything to say to his?
Sure. So, in North Carolina statute, we can't require a community meeting for a straight rezoning. We can't, it's required for conditional rezonings. Now, the applicant, and we can't force the applicant to do anything. We can't have rules that are greater than what the state says we can do. So that would require some sort of state regulatory change, which I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just providing some feedback on your question. Now, the applicant, that doesn't mean the applicant could choose to do it, but in this case, they did. So just wanted to follow
Well,
up on that.
so you're saying this, by law, the state says you can't ask for, the county can't ask for a community meeting, right?
Correct. We cannot require a community meeting. The
Well-
applicant could offer it and the applicant could do it, but we can't require that.
Is there any rule against at least saying to the person, you can, if you would like, you can do that?
We'll generally tell an applicant, I'm not sure if we did, but we'll generally tell an applicant at least to go out and talk to your neighbors.
Well, I think that needs to be
Yeah.
done.
And like Amy said, in addition, just like for any other meeting, all the property owners surrounding this were notified via mail, and they'll be notified with the sign in the yard and the legal ad as well, so they'll still have 2 opportunities to comment on this.
But does what they receive ask for their input?
It says specifically in the letter, they're encouraged to attend and provide their comments.
Right, so they're given 2 opportunities, this meeting and the county commission meeting.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions for Bjorn? All right, if the applicant could come forward. Please state your name.
Name's Michael Haney.
All right, Mr. Haney. Anything you'd like to share with us about this plan?
No, I think what he said is accurate, and I appreciate the help along the way. The current zoning is RA 40, which he mentioned, and it's a half-acre site. So under the current zoning, the property essentially is not buildable. You need an acre to build on the half-acre, on the RA 40. So my attempt is really just to make the property usable property. That was the whole intent of going through a zoning process. It is on Highway 601, which is consistent with the highway corridor zoning. So essentially, I thought that going through the highway corridor zoning was the easy and the most logical path to make it a useful lot.
All right, any questions? Mr. Haney?
Yeah, tell a little bit about what your plans are for it and purpose and all.
My initial plans are just to get it rezoned so that it's usable, and then figure out what the next best use is for it. I don't have an immediate plan. Like was mentioned, I just purchased the property a few months ago, knowing that it had issues, and I purchased it with the thought that I could make it a usable lot. I think at one point, there was a comment about, was it built on previously? Before Highway 601 was widened, there was a home there. So that property was originally
How? Okay.
2 acres. And there was an outbuilding, some structures in the back that have been removed over the years, but there was a home there at one point.
So when the
That was
state,
at the
when the state
601.
widened the road, they took part of that acreage, obviously, for the
Yeah, they did,
new lands
Yeah.
and went down from 2 acres to,
to a half acre.
okay.
Well, I have a question. What all could be put in this zoning?
Well, in terms of just the zoning district, I'm not saying it's feasible to put it on there, but in terms of what's allowed under highway corridor, you could have a group home, you could have family care home, you could put a college campus there. You could have a hospital, you could have a library, you could have a park.
Well,
You want to
well,
have,
you got all these things, but there's no water or sewer
Right.
particularly.
You could have animal grooming facilities or veterinary hospital.
They're gonna require water and sewer.
You could have general commercial office, you could have a daycare, you could put a restaurant, you could have entertainment, entertainment
Well,
and
the bottom
spectator
line
sports.
is with no water, no sewer on the half-acre lot, there's not a whole lot you could do that would attract a large
Right,
amount of people.
And that's the thing about the small size of the lot. If this were, say, 2 acres, it'd be a different conversation. We've had multiple 2-acre rezonings for this type of use, or this zoning districts essentially, along the 601 corridor in the last couple of years. But, you know, by the time you put in a well and septic, something that would have employment, it's going to be really challenging. And so if this were combined with another parcel, for example, it would be a much different situation.
The application says allow for self-storage facility.
What type of self-storage facility?
Yeah, well, the letter of intent does as well.
So, as you read down the list, self-storage facility is another allowable use. I don't know that that's the angle I'll take, but knowing that the water and the sewer is another hurdle that I'll have to cross at some point, that is an allowable use under the highway corridor.
Well,
Yeah,
my,
I mean, it just says it on here.
Yeah.
so
well, my question, what type of self-storage was you thinking?
Again, I don't know that I'm going to go self-storage, but that is an option.
Well, again,
under
I
the
don't
highway
like
corridor.
making open decisions here that, you know, it's hard to make a decision when you don't know what somebody's got on their mind.
Right. So if I did self-storage, and I'm not saying I'm going to, it's, I think, a type 2 or type 3. There's a couple different types of self-storage. It would be covered. I guess it would be a structure that would have interior self-storage if I went that route. But again, the water sewer's got to be figured out before I go to any step in developing the property. The first step was to get it rezoned.
All right.
I will just say, caution the board, when you're thinking about this, I think this is kind of what Bjorn was saying when he was giving his presentation. Don't get hung up on 1 or 2 uses. Because this isn't a conditional rezoning, and that's one of the,
Right.
usually one of the conditions that we get is a limitation of uses, or we get a specific use with
Right.
a site plan. This is a straight rezoning, so you need to consider every use that's allowed in that highway corridor zoning district, and is it appropriate for that area? So that's kind of the thought process to keep in mind. when
Well,
you're going through.
the biggest thought I have here when we're, you know, I sort of like know what I'm voting for. And you just, to me, it's just an open book here of, let's just say it did get approved and rezoned. What would be the next step to doing something?
Well, if it was rezoned to highway corridor and there was a use that was by right, meaning it doesn't require a special use permit to be issued by the board using quasi judicial proceedings, it would just be an application to staff with a site plan. As long as it met the general requirements of the ordinance, they could do it. So for example, going down the thought process of a self-storage facility, you can see a type 1, I think I'm looking at that right, a type 1 has a P beside it. That means that it's a by right use. So a type 1 is generally the kind that you see that looks like an office building. So
Right.
it's interior, usually climate controlled. They could do that by right. They wouldn't have to come back to this board. Now, if they wanted to do a type 3, which is the older kind of self-storage facility, usually a metal building with a fence around it, you can see that requires a special use permit, so that would have to come back. But there are a number of uses that are in here that are
Well,
allowed by right.
Well, then let me ask you this. The one that was before us a year or so ago over around Emerald Lake, where the guy was just letting people park stuff there and charging them.
Yeah.
Could that be done? Would that fall under this
Like a
zone?
boat and RV type situation.
That's generally gonna fall under a type 3. So that, because it's.
It would
it's
need a
outdoor,
special
that'd have to
use.
Come back as a special use permit.
I'm just struggling to understand what you can put on a half an acre of land. That's my,
Yeah,
with no water and no sewer. I mean, that's,
Self-storage would be the logical next step. Not the type 3 that you mentioned, but a building with the interior self-storage components.
it's not gonna be a very big building.
It would not be a very
Not
big
when it meets
building,
setbacks and you gotta have parking and,
right?
yeah, it's gonna be
Well,
20
not-
stories
not-
tall.
Not to mention all the
Well, I'm
furniture.
limited on height as well, but, I mean, I acknowledge that it's a small site and it has it has some struggles, but as it sits today, RA 40, it's not buildable. So I'm just trying to make it towards a useful piece of property.
Well, I know with that driveway it's got, and then if you lowered the angle of the driveway, you're gonna take up more of your property that
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
use, but you put a self-storage up there, you're gonna be busy picking furniture up out of 601 when they start up that hill.
Acknowledged.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Haney or Mr. Hanson? If not, thank you,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
If there's anyone here who has not signed up that would like to speak in favor or opposition, now would be your opportunity. I don't hear any, so board, it's up now to you guys.
I make a motion to approve it.
Okay, well, there's a statement you have to read. It's on the green tab there. The other side. There you go. What's in red? You have to read what, he needs to read what's in red, and then we'd have to say, but he's got to read that out first.
Or just what's in red.
Yeah,
Okay.
under motion, read that, you have to read that statement.
Recommend approval of rezoning petition RZ 2025-010 and adopt the advisory consistency and reasonable statement for recommendation of approval.
So that's the motion. Is there a second? Second. You have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? Okay, all right. Oh, we have one opposite. You got it? Okay. Thank you, sir. Next item. Rezoning case CZ 2024-005, and this is the, what's it called? I'm sorry, am I in the wrong one? No, that's it. Sechrist, the Sechrist rezoning, I believe we're calling this one.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. This is 2024-CZ-005 Seacrest for the name of the road that it's on. It's on Seacrest Shortcut. This is a conditional rezoning. It's approximately 12 acres, looking to go from R20 to B4 with conditions. It has a flea market associated with it that requires a special use permit because our UDO allows them to be concurrent. Your recommendation would acknowledge that the meeting the requirements of the special use permit as well. So there's a site plan, would have up to the 12,000 and change worth of retail sales. There would also be a driver's school for not like semi-trucks, but personal vehicle driving schools associated with it. And any improvements, this is a typo, shouldn't be 601. Any improvements on Secret Shortcut is required by the NCDOT, and 5-year vesting and meeting the UDO at the date of approval. So this is the site plan. I know there's a little bit of detail on it, makes it difficult to read, but here's Secret Shortcut, single-family residential over here. The old entrance to Bonterra is over here, so the Monroe Expressway is further off to the right. That split that entrance. There's a lot of floodplain back here, the creek through here. You have the building for interior flea market and then the driving school, and then there'd be external, outdoors flea market activity here with parking, and here would be your entrance. And then a stormwater pond in the back. So this is the site. You see there's a large Duke power line running through there, so you had to avoid a lot of that with the parking area and allowed uses. North of the site, you can see single family in the distance. There's already a turn lane through here, so the improvements that may be required is just restriping it for the entrance. There isn't, you don't have to construct a turn lane necessarily. South of the site, again, you can see this is where it becomes a low area. Periodically, there is flooding in this area due to heavy storms. And then opposite, this is the area that is related to the former Bonterra entrance, and then in the distance, you can see the Monroe Expressway. So development status, you can see single-family residential to the north and to the west. You have the old Bonterra entrance over here, Monroe Expressway. In terms of environmental features, this is the current floodplain. It's going to be a little bit bigger with the new standards that are going to come online soon, and they are reflecting those new areas in their site plan. The creek and the floodplain are to the south. In terms of zoning, a lot of it is Indian Trail. So this area is an island. If they were proposing residential, our transition zone designation would apply, but because they're proposing commercial, we can use the employment corridor overlay that applies to US 74 to make a recommendation on this. In terms of transportation, Seacrest Shortcut carries approximately 9,000 vehicles per day. That data is several years old. It's probably a little bit higher now. And then the Monroe Expressway, not that it's directly relevant, but does carry approximately 20,000 cars per day. There are no funded improvements in this area. In terms of the land use map, again, the employment corridor overlay applies, so that's why it's shown in purple. That leads up to the Monroe Expressway. In terms of schools and utilities, schools were not consulted because it's a commercial request. Public water and sewer are available to the site and would be utilized. Public feedback community meeting was held in late July. 11 residents attended and had concerns over buffering to their neighborhood. The business plan for the flea market, noting that there have been some that have gone out of business recently. The proximity of the driveway, originally it was closer to their entrance. It's since been moved to the south. And the fact that Seacrest Shortcut does periodically flood. This is close to 3 municipalities, Indian Trail, Hemby Bridge, and Lake Park. We emailed them actually the summer of '24 when we first received this application. It took a while to get to this point, and their comments were in your agenda packet. They each opposed it, citing traffic and land use concerns. So in terms of the positives and the negatives, the negative is, although this is an employment corridor in the map, this is primarily a retail use, and that is something that in limited concentrations would be appropriate on the corridor, but shouldn't be the dominant use. It will increase traffic along Seacrest Shortcut Road, and it is immediately adjacent to residential uses, which obviously can create conflicts. The positives are that it is consistent with the plan and the overlay. It is identified as an employment corridor. Flea markets are allowed with a special use permit, and they've provided all the information to show they comply with it and meet the conditions associated with it. It would increase business opportunities in Union County and can meet our development ordinance. So because of those reasons, we are recommending approval. And you tonight are asked to consider rendering a decision to the Board of Commissioners, or rendering a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. So I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant team is here, and I believe there are people signed up to speak as well.
I have one.
Yes.
Let's just suppose the special use permit didn't get granted for the flea market. What else would be by rights in this zoning they're requesting?
Well, it wouldn't matter what's by right because this is a conditional rezoning. So if you denied that, then really the only thing that's getting approved is a
So in other words, in order for the zoning to stay, that would have to be approved for the flea market, because that's why they're requesting it, right?
Well, they're requesting both, so that would be something that would be, that'd be tough to break out. I mean, I guess you'd have to deny it in its entirety?
So the way your ordinance works is you're not technically granting the special use permit. The ordinance says that through a conditional rezoning, if there's a use that would normally require a special use permit, as long as the applicant provides all the information to the board, as long as that conditional rezone, that would be required for a special use permit, such as an impact study and so on, that as long as the board approves that conditional rezoning, then they request that specific use that otherwise would require the special use permit, then they can use it for that use without going through the formal quasi-judicial process.
So there will not be a special use hearing?
Correct. So there won't be a special use permit, but they can use it for that use. But to uncouple those two uses I'm with Bjorn, that'd be really difficult to do.
Well, my
Like,
question
if
is.
you were okay with the driving school and not the flea market.
Well,
for example.
even, I guess maybe he misunderstood. I wasn't the one asking that. But let's just go back, like on a special use permit, we normally have buffering standards and all these different things that we require, screening and all that.
That's correct, and that's what's shown in here, and the site engineer can talk about the
So
specifics.
it
of
basically
what
already
required.
meets the standards that it
Yeah,
would
we-
need to meet for that special use permit.
Yes, they're showing the appropriate screening and distance separation between the adjacent properties and their uses. So that was already part of the
I
site
think
plan
what
review.
Lee is saying is they're presenting the evidence pretty much that they're gonna do that in the rezoning request so that they don't have to go through the process.
Correct.
Yeah, if this was straight rezoning, then they'd have to come back and get a permit to do
Correct.
something. Right,
That's,
gotcha.
that's correct, yeah.
I think that area, there have been craft fairs there before.
Yes.
Couple
That was-
years
that was-
ago
that was- that
or
was brought
something.
up- That was brought up during the community meeting as well,
And
yes.
it was handled pretty well. We went both of them, and we travel up and down that same road, and
Well, I
it
guess
went
what-
pretty well.
You know, normally the flea markets would be big on the weekend, so you wouldn't have the school traffic on the weekend, so it sort of wouldn't really add more, it'd just basically be a school week all week.
And I'm sorry, Bjorn, Lee, the significant piece of this property is unusable because of floodplain, am I right?
All of this
Yeah.
back here,
Yeah, so that, you're talking
Like
about a huge
3/4 of the
chunk
property easily.
that will never be able to be used probably without some,
That's correct.
right?
Couple of things. The acreage, on your summary and on the application, it says 11.958 acres, but on the other pages, it says 12.398. Why the difference?
Which one says 12.398?
Well, the next page, the development status, environmental features.
Oh, I see. I think that can happen sometimes due to the right-of-way. We see that quite a bit, but thank you for bringing that up. I'll make sure to correct that. Sometimes the properties will actually go to the center line of the road, and that's not really developable area, so it's the difference is most likely the strip of land that is actually along Secret Shortcut Road.
Okay. The other thing I'm wondering, why is the letter of Ben Berry from July 2024 included here?
That was the initial application.
And so it appears like the owners changed hands since then?
It did, yes.
Any other questions?
Yes. Bjorn, on the land use map, there's a area with, shown in purple, that's, I guess, north of that. What is that developed as?
That's not developed. There's been some inquiries over the past few years about putting a subdivision there, or I think there's been a church considered as well, but it's not developed right now, and it's
Okay.
not, there's nothing actively moving forward
Thank you.
for it, but there is interest. And it's not necessarily zoned industrial, it's just this is the recommendation if they were to propose to rezone it.
And it's in the county, not in the town.
It
right?
is,
So
yeah, it
that's-
would be
that's why
gray,
it's
if it would be
different.
gray if it were in the
Gray,
county.
all that gray
or
is
not in the county.
a municipality. Okay. So this is kind of stuck in the middle of a municipality. So it's our issue and not theirs. I got you. Any other questions for Bjorn? All right, if not, if the applicant come forward. It's like for you, make whatever statement you want to make. If we have any questions, we'll ask. Please state your name.
My name is Carbon Milton.
Okay. And you, sir?
And my name is John Rosna. I'm the civil engineer for the project.
Okay. If you want to start, ma'am, tell us
Yes,
what
sir.
you're doing here.
So I'm trying to open up a flea market, obviously. I'm big on community and I love people, so that is something that I'm passionate about, and I feel like that will bring the community together. It's more opportunity, more jobs. When I did hold the community meeting, some of their concerns I understood because I don't live close to that area, so I did, listen to their concerns. But after some time, the majority of them, not all of them, but majority of them, can understand where I was coming from. It's not like I want to build a big building or anything like that. I just want to do something for the community, and I feel like that'll be a great way to offer jobs and, just help young people or, anyone be an entrepreneur.
All right, looks like you got a presentation here, so.
We won't take long, but
Okay.
there are some slides here that might
All right.
help
That'd be
clear some
good.
things
Thank
up,
you,
some
sir.
pretty pictures and whatnot. So let me skip through some of this. So you saw the piece of land previously. The white area plus the purple is the property, about 12 acres in size. It's surrounded by Indian Trail, most of that being residential. Arbor Glen is right next door, all of these, as well as here, so on the north and south side. On the south side is all farmland, undeveloped right now, but just wanted to kind of show that purple area is the area that we're actually developing, so there's a lot of land that we're not touching here. And let's see here, going through that. The artisan market indoor, we're looking at about 18 vendors, vetted. So we're not just going to take anybody. We're going to look for good people that are selling and producing good products. The outdoor market, probably about 28 vendors, and it's not that they're going to be there all the time. It's like your weekend farmers market where they bring the tent and they set up the tent for the day, and when they're done for the day, they're out of there. So we're not keeping any structures outside. The only structure that's permanent is our building. It's about 10,000 square foot, single story. Inside that building, we also have about a 2,000 square foot driver's education course. And we're looking not at truck driver's ed, we're looking at new drivers, so high school students, new residents, helping them get their Class C license. So, it'll be some classroom time and a little bit of road time to get them trained up so they can pass their exam and hopefully be good drivers and safe drivers for all of us. Let's see here. Our impervious area, so the hard surface, our roadway, sidewalks, buildings, we're talking about just over 1 acre, which is about 10% of the property. So most of it is going to be landscape of some sort, grass of some sort, vegetation of some sort. There was a question about screening. So we do have homes that are right next to our property. The ordinance says we have to have a 10-foot buffer with trees every 40 feet and some sort of hedge. So we're providing that. Instead of providing every 40 feet tree, we're providing trees every 30 feet. So a little bit more trees there. The county staff has also asked us to add an additional 10 foot of natural area. So right up against the property line, we're going to keep that natural, let it grow vegetation-wise, and then we have our 10-foot buffer. So essentially, we're providing a 20-foot buffer instead of a 10-foot buffer. We've got lots of constraints, the Duke transmission line, the FEMA flood zone, we've got a stream on there, We've got a sanitary sewer easement and some overhead electric easements. There's the plan you've seen before, but what you didn't see is there's your floodplain, the blue. So most of it is floodplain. We're not touching it. The county's asked us not to touch it, and we're doing that. We'll have to impact it a little bit during construction to put our sanitary sewer line in, but that's not a permanent.
I have a quick question.
Please.
On your parking lot and all that, which way is your water gonna drain?
Yes, yes. So good question. Let me go next page over. Here we go. So same site, just a little bit blown up. So this is essentially our development area. Just below the building is our pond. So we're thinking a sand filter or bioretention basin to collect and treat the stormwater to meet the counties and the state's stormwater treatment attenuation requirements. So we're going to get all the water to drain to this location here, and then it'll discharge into the floodplain.
Okay, so it goes down in that floodplain.
Yes, sir.
Go back to a map that shows us on the other side of that floodplain. Do you have one of them?
Let's see. Something like this,
Okay,
over here.
so out of that floodplain, where does that water go?
Ah, yes. I'm going to flip back over to this one here. So we've got a stream at the south side of our property. So down here, so all the water flows to the south, to the stream, and it goes across Secret Shortcut via, I believe it's a couple pipes that go under the roadway there, over to the other side, and then I believe some pipes that take it probably below or beneath and under the bypass.
Well, I know that in the past, there's been some incidents in the Indian Trail area where some homes were built, and because of other properties with asphalt and all, it made their homes into a new floodplain area.
Yes.
Well, you got houses right behind you there. How do we ensure that we're not creating problems for the folks already built back there?
We do. We're doing that a couple of different ways. One is, we've got all this property, and we're staying out of that floodplain, so we're not impacting that. We're keeping that capacity in there. But the other thing is, which by regulation we have to do, is we're providing that stormwater treatment and attenuation. We're providing a place for our water to be stored, the sand filter or bioretention basin, while everything else drains, and then it'll discharge. So we're kind of slowing it down a little bit, and that's how all state of North Carolina
The pond
dictates
will
that.
mitigate taking away the natural area now. I guess what I'd say is that what the asphalt would create, the pond should handle that until it runs out. to
Yes,
slow
that
it
is-
down.
That is correct. Because of our hard services that we're adding, we're
Right.
providing a pond or something like that to offset that. Absolutely.
Okay.
What we also can do, and we're not promising this, and we haven't designed this, but we've got that floodplain there that, like you're saying, development comes in and people get flooded up or downstream because of this or that. Usually that's bigger developments than the size here. But we've got that floodplain, which Carmen owns. That's her property, and we're not touching it. But I'm fairly certain that the county, engineering and planning, would be okay if we were to dig out some of that, essentially create more capacity. It's
Just
not
building a
hurting.
larger sediment
Yeah,
pond.
it's not,
Yeah.
well, no, we're not even talking about the pond. This is separate. Just digging out dirt from that floodplain to provide a little bit more capacity. I'm not saying it's a lot, but hey, we can provide a little bit because we own that. We're not using it for anything else. Might as well help out our neighbors and offset the chance that we're increasing some flooding. So we have that opportunity, and if we get approved, I'll be recommending that to her. This is the first time she's heard of it from me, but. All right.
I was on the Union County Stormwater Council for a while, and one of the things proposed was I don't know how to say it, a perkable parking lot.
Sure.
Looks good and doesn't act like a great big sheet of metal.
It's, they work well if they work well. Just depends, it depends on the groundwater.
Depends on the ground.
It depends on the ground. And they're also pricey. So, you know, there's budget concerns. So once again, I'm not promising that either, but when we get to the engineering and design, these are things that we'll look at. Because if we do, it's impervious pavement, pervious pavement, if we do that, then maybe the sand filter bioretention gets smaller and maybe get some more room. So there's opportunities there, but we'll provide stormwater treatment and attenuation to the best we can minimize increasing flooding.
Okay.
Another thing to note here, just so you know, open space. So we've got lots of different open spaces. Did mention an outdoor market here, which is on the north side, which is right along the back of the community. But we also have an outdoor market on the southeast corner of our building. So we've got 2 different locations for that. So, it depends on how many vendors, how much those spaces we utilize.
Are these vendors similar to what were there before?
I'll let you talk to that.
Well, it just, I wasn't there before, so I'm not
Oh,
sure what was
okay.
there before, so,
Okay,
yeah.
New
But
owner.
I
Yeah.
definitely want to, because if my name's behind it, I want to make sure that it's not any foolishness. I have heard some good and bad along that area, so I just want to make sure. I would definitely research every last person.
I'll tell you the good side, we enjoyed it.
Okay, good, excellent, excellent, excellent.
I did want to just show this as well. Indian Trail zoning. So we're not in Indian Trail. This is, like I said, it's an island surrounded by Indian Trail. But right across the street, Indian Trail has those properties zoned light industrial. That's the purple. Light industrial has lots of different uses, and you can imagine light industrial, one of them. A couple of the other ones are artisan markets, places for artists to produce and sell their products. So right across the street, which is property that we don't own, so we can't utilize, but it would fit in exactly with what they want for those areas across the street. So just wanted to share that with you. Driver's education, those were those. Yeah, that's all that I've got. You want to share more information?
Yes, sir.
I've talked enough.
That's all.
All right, any questions for these folks?
Yes. You mentioned concern for the neighbors, and I'm puzzling over the fact that Indian Trail, Lake Park, and Amy Bridge City Councils voted to deny it. Now, what is your reaction to the statements that we were given here for their reasons? Have you talked to them since then? And, and it didn't mention anything one way or the other from the community meeting. I would just like to have a more accurate sense of how the surrounding community does in fact feel about this.
You want to talk? Yeah.
As far as the other communities, I have not seen that information about why they pushed back. But at the community meeting, some of the concerns was the entrance of it impacting the neighborhood right behind it. So we definitely said that maybe we can possibly move the entrance further down so that we didn't impact the neighborhood. They said they have a hard time getting in and out as it was. Also, one of them was the sound, the noise, and that it was an issue previously, and I explained that I have no intention of having a DJ or any type of musician there or anything of that nature, but also with the buffer, the additional buffer, that we would try to eliminate, as much noise as possible as well. And also the concern with one young lady was with the amount of trees. She loves her trees in her yard, and that's why she purchased the property. So we understood that, and so that's why we tried to address that as well by keeping as many, natural trees there as possible.
I'll talk about the 3 municipalities, and I'll tell you, I didn't see the email until yesterday, I looked at the agenda yesterday. I said, I need to prepare for this. Let's see the agenda. And in the agenda is the email correspondence with the 3 municipalities. So I saw it yesterday. If I had more time, I probably would reach out to them and speak with them. But they provided their feedback a year plus several months ago. The very first iteration of this, which there's not a lot you can change, so it probably is not a big change to what we're showing now. But Indian Trail's concern, I believe, is they want to see this property be in conservation. There's a large floodplain. They don't want that impacted. We're not impacting it. We invited them to the community meeting. We held the community meeting at the town hall for Indian Trail. Indian Trail did not show up to speak with us. Doesn't mean that they had to be there, but I was hoping that they would pop their head in. Lake Park provided, they're concerned with the traffic on Secret Shortcut. I don't see this impacting the traffic during the peak hours of 5 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. It gets a mess then. The peak's going to be the weekend coming, which is kind of off-peak for the roadway. We're concerned kind of about the zoning. It's not zoned, it's zoned kind of residential around there. I haven't had in-depth conversations with them. But, and then the other municipality was Hemi Bridge. Hemi Bridge is down the street from it. They basically said that they've had to stop approving commercial properties along the roadway because they get lots of requests for those. So I'm not really sure why they said that they didn't want it, that it's not in Hemi Bridge, but that's okay. So I can't speak to that, I'm sorry. Yeah, and we tried to address the neighbors' concerns as best we can, because they were there, they were passionate, and, you know, it's in their backyard, so they had a right to be. But along that property line, we're keeping the trees as best we can. That whole floodplain, we're not touching it, so any trees that are in there are staying. We moved the driveway away from their backyards and put it central on the property. So we moved that noise concern away from their property and provide some separation from their driveway entrance. It makes for a better entrance anyway, so that's good. We had limited things that we could do, but we did the things we could. And a couple of them are here to speak, so as soon as I stop talking, they'll share their 2 cents as well, so I'll stop talking.
Anything else there for
Was
questions?
the entrance, used to be, well, what's being shown?
This is the original.
Used to be farther down. Arbor Glen, I go up and down that road. Arbor Glen's got absolutely the worst way out on that street, because they're at the peak of the corner.
Yep.
It's absolutely the worst. If I were you, I'd move this thing.
So that was, and I'll thank Arbor Land for that recommendation. This is the original plan that we shared at the community meeting with the residents. So our driveway was right here, which is near the property line. Arbor Glen's here, Arbor Glen's is over here.
Right.
So that's the original. We moved it, we spent a few months
There you go.
and some money to move it over here.
There you go.
So it was over here, we moved it over here. So it provides some sight distance, much better location, safer location. Yeah.
That corner at Arbor Glen is scary.
It's better here,
at times,
yeah.
but that will help.
So, anyway,
Right, I have just a quick question. How many acres of this 12 acres is included in this spot here where you're actually able to put something?
yeah, that's a good question. We're disturbing just under 4 acres, so I think that's probably about 3 acres.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's basically all that's available for anything, because the
Correct.
rest of it's,
correct. And a lot of that is the 150-foot right-of-way
Right.
for the transmission line. So we can't put a building, we can't put structures, we're limited on landscaping, yeah.
right. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I'm concerned about this, your residential neighbors, the flea market. So you're showing an outdoor market right against their property lines?
We are, yes, sir.
Could you explain what that will be? Is that where the tents will go up and then come down?
It is, absolutely, yes.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Milton, I'm wondering now, it says Matt Construction is the owner. What's your relation with them?
That's my husband,
Okay,
yes.
okay. And this other puzzlement is for Bourne. In the summary request, item 3 says, owner will construct improvements to US 601
That
as
was,
required.
that was a typo.
Okay, I thought.
Yeah, I meant Secret Shortcut. Sorry about that.
I was trying to figure that out myself when I got it, and I was like, what's 601 got to do with this? I was like, where's secret shortcut across 601? Okay. All right, anything else for the applicant? All right, if not, we have two individuals who have signed up to speak. I'm gonna probably butcher this name, but Ms. Aramis, is that?
I've never done this before, so sorry.
I'm sorry.
My
What is your name?
name's Arian Guadaramas. I'm a resident of Arbor Glen. I live right along Southwind Trail Drive. So, in appropriation to the maps he's talking about, is just past where the floodplain is. In fact, I live right next to the storm drain runoff. So all of the water that comes through the storm drain runoff runs into that field back there. And we're very familiar with the flooding that often takes place, closing out that field. Sometimes the police put barricades right at the entrance of Arbor Glen so that cars can't go past because that area gets flooded out with bad storms. So recognizing that the majority of this property won't be developed because of the floodplain, we still have a lot of concerns about that. You mentioned that the plan has access to septic, to city sewer and water. Since I just learned the term perk while I was here, I looked that up. So it doesn't seem like it needs to have, perkable soil, but that is a concern because that's why it constantly floods out for us. And then any changes to it, as you guys were already discussing, could potentially then bring that flooding into our homes. Some of our residents, unfortunately, they didn't make it to this meeting tonight, talked about how their backyards already get flooded from those trees that are right back there. Like, you look into the trees and it looks like a cypress grove because that water is coming in, and we don't want to have any additional water added to that by displacing it from that field. So those are the two biggest things about flooding that I wanted to point out. Also, you brought up the concerns from Hemby Bridge, Lake Park, and Indian Trail about what I read from their concerns was traffic congestion. So our neighborhood is right in the midst of the intersection for Hemby Bridge and for Faith Church Road and Seacrest Shortcut, which is also where the entrance to the Monroe Expressway is. And whether it's the weekend or the evening traffic, it often gets backed up there as people are waiting to turn at the intersection specifically to go to the Monroe Expressway. So if you're adding all of this extra traffic for weekends, flea markets, that's a concern. And sir, you mentioned the craft market that's been there before. I myself visited that craft market. I would say there were maybe 15 to 20 vendors that were there in a circular in the middle of the field. There's no construction. It was just like pop-up tents and tables and things like that. But we're talking about having pop-up tents of 28 vendors and then a fixed building with another 18 vendors. So you're going to bring a lot more traffic coming into that on the weekends. And then the driving school that would potentially be open during the week would also bring traffic during the week. So you are going to have 7-day-a-week increase in traffic and congestion, impacting both the intersection at Seacrest Shortcut and Faith Church Road, as well as the crazy exit and entrance that we have for Arbor Glen. So I appreciate that they moved the entrance to the property. That is helpful, but still concerned about the traffic and congestion. And then specifically me, because my house is butting up against where this pop-up 28 vendors will be. I understand there's not going to be DJs or music or things like that, but there is going to be noise and potentially litter to those surroundings and to that natural area of what's left behind. And so I did buy my house. I've lived in Arbor Glen for 8 years. I'm the one who commented about the trees. I don't want to take my trees away. I've already, since I've lived there, dealt with the Monroe Expressway opening, and I can hear the traffic enjoy my backyard. So I am concerned about what that will do to the natural effect of having this green space in the backyard. And then, I know only you have 3 minutes, but on behalf of my neighbor, she lives across the street from me, and she has a son who's severely autistic and nonverbal, and he gets disruptive from these loud noises and has like violent outbursts at times when he gets disrupted like that. So already we know from the craft market and from other events that were in that field that does carry over to us. And so we can hear that, and that is, I can hear some of my neighbors when they have backyard barbecues. So trees and buffer zone or not, it's going to impact our peace and quiet that we're trying to enjoy there. And then the last thing, just a couple of points that you all mentioned. So you mentioned that several years ago, the traffic on Seacrest Shortcut was 9,000 cars a day, and that the responses from Hemby Bridge, Indian Trail, and Lake Park were a year old. But now that traffic would be even greater than 9,000. So if we're talking 12,000 cars a day and even more as they're building new developments along, in the area vicinity around us, that's going to increase even more, again, as people go to the Monroe Expressway. And I think that's
All
it.
right, thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Ali, does she want to, you fine? Okay. Okay, anything else, anyone else wants to present? Okay. Board, any other questions? All right, I will turn to the pink tab board. You have to make a decision, front or the back. Do I have a motion?
Well, I would just like to say that this is a residential area, and I'm very concerned about a flea market, and especially the fact that there be tents up along the house line adjacent to it. So I'm very concerned about that. It doesn't seem to me to fit.
And I share her concern with the floodplain, because in reality, it don't matter how big a retention pond you build. If we get a rainy season and it fills up, it's got to go somewhere. And you're eventually going to see the point that you're losing the absorption that you've asphalted over.
All right. So anyone want to make a motion?
I personally, I would recommend approval of the rezoning petition CZ 2024-005, adopt advisory consistent with reasonableness statement, the recommendation is approval.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Okay. All right, motion with no second, so do I have an alternate motion?
I would recommend. I would recommend denial of the, put my glasses on. I would recommend denial of the rezoning petition CZ 2024-005 and adopt the advisory consistency and reasonableness statement for recommendation of denial.
What's the motion? Is there a second? All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, folks. And the next item is the rural land use plan presentation by Mr. Bjorn
I will.
and Mr. Balcom, I'm sure.
I will set it up for Mr. Balcom. John, let me get your slideshow, thumb drive.
This looks big, Alan.
Do what?
This looks big.
Oh, well, I warned y'all when I was here last time that we'd be back. And I
Well,
assumed that.
Let's focus on what might have changed since the last time. We're not do it all over again. How about that?
Rick came concerned? Oh, thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. As I said, I told you we'd be back, and we are. Have a couple members of the committee, the steering committee, that are here. And so anytime you have questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll do our best to answer the questions that you have. Here's a 2050 land use map, and this is what we were working on. The green is the areas in the county that are rural. The role of this steering committee I'm gonna go over some of these things. I know we went over them before, but I want to make sure we clearly understand. Was for us to research options, solicit public feedback, and then make recommendations ultimately, which is what we're doing tonight, back to you guys, the Land Use Board, and then to the Board of County Commissioners. Your role was to make recommendations to us, and guys, we appreciate all your input that you gave to us. It was well received, and to participate in the planning process and provide feedback, which you did. And then the commissioners, they will approve the plan, implement strategies. I'm going backwards. What am I doing, Bjorn?
The arrow to the right.
Huh? Oh, I was using the mouse. Okay, again, this is the land use map that we were using with our focus was on the green areas, which is the unincorporated and the rural areas. Now we are. The approved vision statement that we used was in the rural areas of Union County. We cherish a way of life where farms and protected open spaces define our community. As stewards of the land, we treasure the balance between the living close to nature and preserving our agricultural heritage. Expanses of productive farmland remind us daily of where our food comes from, and by adding options for property owners, lowering density, and enhancing environmental protection requirements, we preserve our natural resources and encourage public appreciation while ensuring agriculture thrives. This approach will sustain our rural character and provide a vibrant future for generations to come. A very lengthy vision statement, but any attempts that we had of shortening this thing, we felt like failed to encompass the desired results. And so, on our outreach, we had 2 rounds of public engagement, social media postings, weekly newsletter, email went out to over 600 interested residents and municipalities, continuous updates on the county website, a spectacular interviews by Bjorn and myself on Wixie, and no need to say it, but Bjorn does have that face for radio, which he used quite well. We had almost 400 responses from the public, and there was presentation to municipal planners, and of course the steering committee meetings, and the public was welcome and invited to attend. They were open. Strategies, policy, or action designed to achieve a goal. They are the teeth of the plan. They need to be thought through to avoid unintended consequences, and we really focused on the unintended consequences, and they're ideally effective on their own, not requiring other strategies to achieve results. Recommended strategies, these are the top recommended strategies here, is expand the agricultural easement purchase program to protect 10% of all the agricultural land by 2050. And to do it, we recommend increased funding by $3 to $5 million per year. There's about 200,000 acres in Union County of agricultural land. So we're talking about roughly 20,000 acres by 2050. Quite honestly, if we can't wait to 2050, in our opinion, the steering committee's opinion, to work on this, because the next 10 years are going to be critical. If we're not careful, the time we'll lose the opportunities. Second thing is add flexibility for commercial uses in rural areas, and this allows for low-impact commercial development without the rezoning on 5-acre minimum lots and 4 acres of protected land per acre of development. 5-acre minimum lot, 1 acre could be used for the commercial, 4 acres be protected. And this would require a Unified Development Ordinance amendment. Third is require contiguous areas for open space in major subdivisions. And this require the open space to be concentrated with 60% contiguous, focused on forest and streams. And again, this would require a unified or UDO amendment. The last one here is purchase priority land with fee in lieu of for open space requirements. And this is allowing smaller impacted subdivisions to avoid open space requirements by paying into the agricultural easement program. This would require a UDO again. The reason that we brought this forward is because in some of the smaller subdivisions, and we're talking the 8 to 10, 12 houses maybe, that the space itself might be onerous to maintain by this small development. That might not be from an HOA standpoint, that would give them the option of purchasing with a fee, purchasing through the Soil and Water Conservation Program easement plan that is now existing in the county to purchase offsetting property. And it was for the benefit of only these small developments. Additional recommended strategies we expressed concern over impact from bypasses. The bypasses south of Waxhaw and Monroe, and this would be commissioner policy. Limit major subdivisions in certain zoning districts. And to do this would require major subdivisions to have access to water or sewer. And this would require a UDO. This would would limit where major subdivisions could be built. I'll show you the map a little bit later. Do we have this map going? Okay. And next is expand rural areas in the land use map. There's adding 6 square miles immediately west of Monroe to the rural residential district, and this would require a land use map amendment. The last one here is add 6 rural centers to the land use map. This is adding small commercial centers at 6 intersections in the rural areas, and you can see where those are there. And then this would require a land use map amendment again. These were the recommended strategies that came out of the steering committee. The next step, and one occurred this morning, was the, as I understand, unanimous endorsement by the Soil and Water Conservation District Board. And then the presentation here tonight from you guys. And then the presentation to the Agriculture Advisory Board on November the 6th for their endorsement. November 17th, go to County Commissioners. And then November 25th, Steering Committee meets back again, start with the UDO amendment process. In December, we meet again. January, we make recommendations, and January 20th, back for you guys, and February 16th, back to the commissioners. That's my presentation.
Can you back up just a little bit?
Where to on it, Mark?
There.
Oh,
One more.
there? Yes, sir.
Okay. first question, the third item down, the contiguous areas for open space and major subdivisions.
Yes, sir.
So, if I read that right, if you had 100 acres and you was gonna do a subdivision, 60% of it would stay, okay, you're shaking your head.
No, that's 30%, correct.
Right, so it's a kind of a phased process. So you have your 100 acres and you're in the rural area. You have to set aside 30%. So we'll just say 30% of 100 acres, 30 acres. Right now, you could have your development and have the leftover pieces here and there be your open space, which is not good from an environmental perspective because it's fragmented. So the intent is to say, of that 30 acres, at least 60%, which would be 18. So there needs to be at least an 18-acre chunk. That's, the priority is contiguous forests. So if you have a big tree stand, that's where you're saving it. And then with whatever land is left over, say there's only 12 acres of forest, the other 6 might be enhancing stream buffers on that property. So it's not a 60% open space requirement, it's the allocation of the open space.
I got you, because there's a lot of them, like you said, they put there and everywhere it benefits
Well, a lot of
them.
them is for benefit, just to locate more pieces of property that they can sell. So,
Okay, there was one more. Go to the next page, please.
this one?
All right, the second one there, requiring them to have access. You're saying that, you're basically saying the water and sewer already has to be there.
They have to have water and sewer. It says that access to water and sewer, and this was public water and sewer. It didn't say it on here. Or, it's, either or, water or sewer, but public water or sewer. The word public is not there.
So we're basically doing away with them coming to us like the one here a while back where they wanted to have their own septic system and all.
No, because he's saying water or sewer. So if they
It
got
do either
water,
or.
well, I'm saying if they got water, they can ask for a septic
And
system,
that did
right?
have water, didn't it?
No, it means they have, if they got water.
Right,
If they got
water,
one, they have to
or if
have,
they got
they have to have one.
right.
Oh, okay.
So it's not changing.
Okay, so it's pretty much the same way it was, okay.
If it said water and sewer, then it'd be water or sewer, I think that leaves wide open. Am I right, Lee?
Let me clarify something.
Okay, please.
Lee and I, our spidey sense both went up at the same time. So this, again, this is a very condensed
Gotcha.
summary compared to the actual plan. So a central sewer service provider is defined as any sewage treatment facility owned and operated by a sanitary district, a metropolitan sewage district, water and sewer authority, a county or municipal or other public utility, or a private utility. So you could still have a package plant, you could still have some sort of central water provider, but it has to be licensed as a utility.
Right.
And that's a threshold that a couple developments have proposed. They haven't checked all the boxes from an administrative perspective to accomplish that. So you still could do a private service, but they have to be licensed through the
Gotcha.
state.
But they would have to have,
Water,
right,
no wells. And
right.
that meets your question?
Yeah.
Charles?
Well, I'd like to call attention to page 9 of our packet here, beside the figure 6 picture at the bottom where it says, the 2022 North Carolina Census of Agriculture determined Union County has nearly 190,000 acres of farmland. That was 3 years ago, and loses approximately 3,000 acres of farmland per year. The county also ranks 13th highest in the country for open space loss according to the American Farmland Trust Study in 2022. Now, I think that's, and surely some of you have seen or heard this past week, that the Lancaster Council voted to do a moratorium on Indian Land 521 with all that's been going on there. And so, looking at this, I certainly think there ought to be some mention of the necessity of a moratorium, perhaps.
Any other comments? Questions? Okay.
Well,
I think we ride around a good bit and see subdivisions going in, and my wife, as smart as she is, said, why do they have to just bulldoze everything down? Oh, I know it's cheaper to build that way, but it doesn't do anything for the trees that make oxygen and all sorts of good stuff. So, just a comment.
I just made the comment that, you know, this is, we border the biggest city in the state, and that's, Union County has unfortunately, over the years, I think, allowed a little bit too much coming our way, and if we don't do something, this probably should have been done a long time ago, but we gotta stop it, because I don't want New Salem to become Indian Trail.
Which
I don't think
which
Mr.
will
Austin
happen.
does either, but it's, you know, we gotta do something to curb it, and I'm glad to see us work in that direction.
Thank you. And this, quite honestly, I'm in agreement fully with what you're saying on it, Darren. And we can't wait. We've kicked this can long enough. There's too much concern, been too much concern, and I'm not finding fault with anybody, but there's been lots of concern in the past about growth, wanting to grow, wanting to grow, wanting to grow. Well, now, we've got a county that still has the opportunity to maintain some open space, to maintain some values that people move here for, that people embrace. And quite honestly, the next 10 years, if action, real aggressive, positive action to protect this open space is not taken, it can easily be just like Mecklenburg. And that's a feeling, I think, of the steering committee. It's a feeling of lots of people. And County Manager Matthews said it quite well. It's, the people need to, this is opportunity for the people to.
Yeah. I think one of the concerns a lot of people have had with the whole sewer, expanding our sewer capacity.
Right.
Is the fear that if we expand it, then we're gonna have thousands more houses pop up all over, everywhere. And I think by presenting something like this and protecting that property, we can move forward with some sewer that we need for, because there are areas where we can't have development. We need more commercial development in some of these places, but we're running out of sewer, and everybody's afraid to build sewer because afraid that it's just gonna continue to go down the road like it has for the last 30 years.
And the reality is, it probably would.
Right, yeah, it would. It would.
Because it's real easy for someone to, as people with ties to the land die out, and then you have the heirs that don't have the ties, that the land is maybe not an albatross, but it's an opportunity for them to do other things with. Why? And I'm a capitalist as well, but why? Their feeling is, why shouldn't they capitalize on it?
Right.
And move forward in an area that they like. Bjorn, is it on here, the utilities?
Yeah, it's towards the end.
Okay.
Well, right
There.
now, Alan, we have a situation. If you go to Charlotte, and when you come back into Union County, if you're like me, you kind of, boy, I'm glad I'm back here. The traffic's not near as bad. But we got municipalities that's allowing growth like crazy. And it's not gonna be long, even with the permits that's already out there. We're gonna have Charlotte traffic at least probably to 601 South.
Yes, sir.
What in these proposals that you guys are working on puts a little teeth on deterring the townships from continuing what they're doing?
Well, the reality on it, Mark, is one of the words that was stated, I think, was we have zero control over these municipalities. And the only thing we can do is take and manage what we do have some control over. And focus on that rather than putting focus on what we can't do anything about. They've got to take and come to some realization in their own areas of what they are willing to accept and not. This is that utility network map, just showing where water is available and, more importantly, where it's not available. And the eastern side of the county is very sparse. And as much as I'd love to have county water, instead of having to spend $15,000 for the well and maintain it and treat it, I don't want county water. I don't want sewer, because to your point, Darren, I know what comes with it.
Well, and you have to, those of us who've been here a while understand.
Yes.
I was with my kids, and we're sitting at the intersection in Indian Trail where the Walmart is. And I said, when I was your age, there wasn't nothing here but the Crystal Shop. And I'm not as old as Jerry Simpson, and it hadn't been that long ago. It's not that many. It really hadn't been that many years. It was a little gas station there, whatever. And look where it's gone. And if we don't stop, my kids are going to be sitting at the intersection down there on 601 South going, I remember when there wasn't nothing here but a gas station that sold Mexican food beside it. But and now it's got all this other stuff. So it happens.
So-
And we have to do something. I think.
30 years ago, you had the Smiley store over at Stallings, and the next thing you saw was the Crystal Shop,
Yep.
and then the golf course.
Yep, that's right.
But, so,
I would like to congratulate the committee. I think they did a great job.
Absolutely.
thank you, Larry.
And the schedule here, the dates are great. I mean, I hope we can maintain that. It's good.
Well, thus far, we've stayed on point.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
And quite honestly, a whole lot of it has to do with the staff and the work they've done in the background. You guys know what's involved.
I can say to Mark's comment that Weddington, they had 60 acres that they wanted to develop right along 16. And the people just rose up and they, came down to the town hall and it was turned down. Just turned it down. I don't know why they heard it, but they did, and it was turned down.
Any other comments, Joe?
I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thanks, Alan, for you and, the Rural Use Land Committee for all your time and, everyone involved. I mean, I appreciate it. Appreciate the county commissioners working with you guys as well, because this should have been done 20 years ago. But anyway, and then you look at this map, and, the eastern side of the county, the lifelong residents, they got well water, but then comes along over there on Brief Road, everybody's got $5,000 water softeners they gotta have. But guess what? They're getting taxed the same way as people that's got water.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Yes, sir.
I don't know the answers, but anyway,
There's lots of challenges.
this has been going on for, Too long.
It didn't just start.
nope,
It's been going on, but we now have an opportunity to take and do something.
Right.
And that's where we are. And so
Yeah.
we need your approval.
Big thanks to you and the board and the staff for all y'all's hard work. Being on the 2050 plan, I know a lot went into that, and I know a lot's went into this, and this is just tying up some very important loose ends, and I think you guys are doing a great job, Lee. Bjorn, but you're ahead, so I have to say-
Lee wasn't even, he wouldn't
I
even get on a Zoom call.
I have to make him feel good sometimes, because, you know, he's the man.
Throw Lee under the bus.
We know how much Bjorn works. Anything else?
What else can we do?
We need your approval. We
Yep.
need a vote from you guys.
We need to send a message, I
To
guess.
take to the
make sure
commissioners.
we're-
Well, I just want to, again, add my thanks. I'm so glad that the county is doing something about it. But there is one thing I think is a critical missing item here. And this will involve changes at the state level as well. But like we heard from the woman about the secret shortcut, she lives there. And so I think it is government's role to provide information, recommendations, et cetera, but not make final decisions. I believe it should be that the local community gets to make the final decision, because that will control it according to what that community wants. And again, it's a matter of government is to be the servant of the people, not to dictate what they can and can't do. So it should be the local community that is directly affected. Again, just like this woman testified, she's right there at it. So why shouldn't it be the neighbor's decision, not our decision? Why shouldn't it be theirs to be the final decision?
All right, anything else? All right, do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve.
And
We have a motion to endorse this plan to the county commission for approval. So has a second? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you again.
thank you all very much.
Appreciate y'all's hard work.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, next item is planning staff report. We have to approve, or do we have to approve this? Yeah, probably. Motion, we need a motion to approve the 2026 meeting schedule. You see a couple of changes there due to holidays. Everything else is, which, by the way, Bjorn, make sure you fix that on the slide.
Yeah, I will.
It said the
Thank you.
20th, it's 27th, we won't be meeting on 20th. Do I have a motion to approve the schedule? Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye, any opposed? Any other things to come before the board from staff?
You just had the two recent rezonings. Board approved the one on 601 South. That was Gonzalez,
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. And then we had the one that was on the county property at the shooting range
That was approved.
that was approved for the substation.
So they were both approved?
Yes, sir. They were-
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other thing? Anything else? Anything from Miss Amy? All right, in the hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor, aye? Aye. I'm going to the house, I'm going to the house. I'm going to the house. There you go.